Ahoy there, mates. Welcome aboard the VHS Pirate Ship. I'm Captain Adam, and welcome to the show and tell that treats you well. It's Captain Adam's Show and Tell. Welcome to the show. I'm happy that you're here today. Always happy to see you. Well, I guess I don't really see you, but I should say it's always happy to talk to you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you're here, and I certainly hope that you're happy out there. I hope everything's going well for you. And if they're not, if things aren't going as well as they could, if you think such a thing. If things aren't going as well as you think they should be going, things aren't really going according to your plans, just know that things are always on the up and up. And, always remember, even a slow clock, as much as it may tarry, will always get to its promised destination. So, just keep that in mind. No matter how long something takes, things are happening, whether you realize it or not. And everything is a cog in the wheel of the greater plan and action. So please keep the faith. Certainly stay positive. Look onward and upward. Look to God and put your trust in Jesus Christ, and everything is going to be all right. Trust me on that. And also you should know that there are people behind the scenes rooting for you. And hey, I'm one of them. I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you. I'm praying for you. Hey, I'm here for you. This is your old buddy Captain Adam here, just really wanting you to do well and be well. And I hope you realize that. So please stay positive and keep the faith. And yes, I certainly enjoy talking to you, and I'm certainly glad you're here today. Thank you for joining me. Today's going to be a rather interesting episode of the Show and Tell. And by interesting, I mean rather short, because, the tapes featured in today's Show and Tell aren't very many in number. Today we're going to be showing off my sports VHS. I do not have many of them because I am not that big of a sports fan. I like baseball somewhat, but I'm certainly nowhere near a fan. But I did want to show off the sports VHS, the very few that I have in my collection, because I think it's worthwhile, especially with the big football game coming up, the Super Bowl coming up. I think it's pretty prudent to talk about sports VHS now, and there's no better time than the present. So hopefully you're interested in this. I know I'm not entirely interested in sports, but I do have some sports VHS in my collection, as you can see, just not very many, because I do pick them up if I find them interesting, if they're different, if there's just something unique about them. But if I come across like sports VHS in the wild, usually I just look right past them because I'm just not interested. But the few I have here do have little stories as to why I particularly chose these tapes to purchase, even though I do not like sports. But it doesn't matter. I still wanted these for my VHS collection. And of course, another reason that really sort of prompted me to show off my sports VHS was the recent passing of the great Bob Uecker. I was a fan of his ever since Mr. Belvedere, and of course the Major League films and WrestleMania 4. He was just great in usually anything he was in. So sad to hear of his passing. Recent passing of Bob Uecker. I say recent, even though if you were watching this in the future, I suppose it wouldn't be as recent. But yes, Bob Uecker had passed away, and I just felt it necessary to talk about Bob Uecker, show tribute to him, because one of the tapes in my sports VHS collection it does pertain to him most certainly. So yes. Well, before we go into kickoff here, see what I did there? I should mention some things. I am very happy to announce, and I was very happy to hear that the great Rob's Vintage Video is coming back to YouTube after a rather long hiatus. Rob's Vintage Video coming back. He's going to be doing some new videos here soon. He put a video out last night, a live stream, a little bit of a pop-up live stream. It wasn't very long. He just wanted to pretty much let you know what was going on. I said look for the link to his channel in the description, and definitely subscribe to Rob's Vintage Video. If you're into the VHS culture, you will certainly dig him, because he gets into it, man. He does some digging on some tapes. It's a good time. I used to work with him with live streams. He invited me to do live streams with him. Did that for a couple months. But then that sort of just fell apart. Mainly, and Rob, if you're listening, I want you to know, last Christmas, or I guess maybe 2 Christmases ago, I had caught COVID, and that just proceeded to really ruin everything, as it were, because I got real sick, and it was the weirdest thing I ever had to experience. And if anybody out there has ever had it, perhaps you can relate. It wasn't so much the symptoms, because it was more like just having a cold, but it was what it did to you. There was what it was called the brain fog. It really messed me up. It really took the will I had to do anything just completely away from me, completely just sapped me of any kind of motivation, and made me like really depressed. And it was quite different than anything I've ever had. I hope I never have that again, and I hope nobody has it. I definitely think it was an engineered virus to make people feel that way, to lessen their wills, and to make them more pliable to whatever instructions their overseers will give them. If you think that's a little far-fetched, if you think that's some tinfoil hat wearing nonsense, I want you to think twice about that, because I don't think that's the case at all. I think there is a lot of truth to that, and if you don't agree, well, that's up to you. But to me, I've experienced it, and I just there's something not right about that. It just wasn't a normal sickness. It just seemed like it was a pre-designed weapon. And you can call me crazy all you want, but I don't believe I'm crazy. I think there's some truth to that theory. So anyways, long story short, Rob, I'm sorry that things sort of fell apart with us, but just know that it was mainly because of that. Everything just sort of changed because of that. And I know, I don't know. I just hope I wasn't very short with you, and I think that I was, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry for that, and I hope we can work together again in the future. So Rob, my man, I really hope you come back to YouTube full force, and I really hope to see more from you, and I hope to hear from you, and I hope we can work together again in the future. And I really mean that too. Rob, you do mean a lot to me, buddy. You were one of my first fans, and you certainly were very supportive of me and really appreciated what I was doing, and it was nice to have you there. I really appreciate it, and I do just sort of feel like there was some sort of falling out between us, and I think it was a direct correlation to me getting sick, and it just completely changed my mind frame. And I think I was sort of I don't know, a bit rude to you, maybe. I'm not sure, but I hope that we can certainly reconcile what happened, and I hope we could really get back on track with each other. Because I appreciate you, buddy, and I certainly am glad you got your new studio up and running. The video store looks great, and I am looking forward to seeing more of it as you put out more videos. So speaking of videos, how about we get started with this one here, and let's examine some of my sports VHS. Well, actually, all of my sports VHS. As you can see, I only have 5 of them. So this will be a short video. I don't want to give you long form videos all the time, because you deserve better than that. Long form videos are kind of a hard sell. So yeah, I watch long form videos sort of in increments. Very rarely do I watch long form videos all at once in one setting, but I do get to them. I do finish them. So yeah, all you out there who make long form videos know that I do watch them. It just takes me some time, because stuff goes on. So yeah, this won't be a long form video. This will be a rather short video. At least it will be if I don't keep prattling on like this. So yeah, let's get started. And I should say that there is a difference between sports VHS and sports movie VHS, because sports movies are movies that are about sports, and sports VHS are just like documentaries, highlight reels, stuff like that. So all the tapes that are going to be shown today are going to be documentaries and highlight reels, as I had just mentioned. So yeah, but in the future, I am going to be doing a show and tell about all my baseball movies. So look for that. That'll be in the spring to correlate with spring training and the start of baseball season. So that'll be a lot of fun. And that is when we'll examine my Major League tapes. And of course, Bob Uecker is in Major League, and which brings us to our first featured tape of this episode with this little Bob Uecker treasure. It's Bob Uecker's Wacky World of Sports. Now, this was a television show I'm not sure how long it ran or what kind of syndication it had or even what channel it was on. I'm really not too sure about this show. I know it was a show, and they did eventually put some on VHS. I'm pretty sure there was more than one volume of these. Of course, this is what year does that say? 1989. Very RVI home video distribution. Not sure who they are. They are most certainly a third-tier home video distributor. So you more than likely found this at Kmart or something like that. But this certainly was a a tape that your dad would rent. I'm quite certain that you'd watch this with your dad on a slow Sunday afternoon sometime. It's a good time, of course. Bob Uecker just makes everything fun, and this is just like sort of like sports bloopers, just weird stuff that happens in the world of sports, according to Bob Uecker. And just look at the artwork on the cover there. It's just so charming. You know, I guess that's the best word to describe this. Is just it's charming. And when I came across this in the thrift store, just had to have it, just based on the fact that it is what it is. And when it comes to sports tapes, this is certainly the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So yeah, Bob Uecker's Wacky World of Sports. Pretty sure there's more than one volume of this. This is the only one I found in the wild. And by the way, if you're wondering why I call it the wild is like thrift stores and secondhand bookstores, stuff like that. You know, you go to a physical store or perhaps a yard sale, an antique store, something like that, flea markets. The wild is out in the wild, and that's what I call it. If you were wondering, you probably already put that together. So good for you if you did. And hey, let's continue forth with this sports tape journey. And speaking of sports bloopers, our next piece is Sports Blooper Mania, and it is exactly what it sounds like it is. It's a collaboration of sports bloopers throughout many sports, and I haven't really fired this one up yet. Yeah, just another one I just had to get. Like I said, this is the kind of stuff I look for when it comes to sports tapes. It's always worth picking up sports blooper tapes because, well, a lot of this stuff, what's it say on the back there? Featuring Morgiana, the kissing bandit. She's noted for running on the playing field and kissing the players. Well, that's something that could certainly be considered sexual assault nowadays, so that's probably not a good idea. Front Row Video there, that's another third-tier distributor. They did put out they put out a version of the Night of the Living, not a version, but a distribution of Night of the Living Dead as well. And I do have a couple of tapes of theirs in my collection. Maybe one day I'll do a show and tell about Front Row Video. Another one like UAV, or United American Video, home video distributor, is that they used very low quality tape because these were like budget, like a Econoline home video distributor. So it was cheap, but it also didn't play all that great. So I'm sure the same is true for this Sports Blooper Mania. Maybe one day I'll fire this one up. Happy to have it. Always on the lookout for stuff like this. Let's see if I can get a year of this distribution here. Let's see, 1988. Yes, Front Row Video, exclusive distributor of this. They look like they were from out of New Jersey. I'm quite certain it was probably out of somebody's garage. I'm not sure, but God bless them for sure. Front Row Video, just one of the ones, again, you'd find these in perhaps a Kmart or a Big Lots or a Zayres, and it would be rather cheap. So yeah, Sports Blooper Mania. Happy to have this tape in my collection, just because I always found it's rather worth it to pick up sports blooper tapes. As I was going to say before, until I was distracted by Morgiana, the kissing bandit. A lot of this stuff, when you find them like this, a lot of this stuff isn't licensed, so it's almost like I'm not going to say it's a pirated bootleg copy of anything, but they don't have, a lot of them didn't have the licensing rights for to show the clips from the sports, whatever sports franchise it's from. And of course, you know, stuff like NFL, NBA, and MLB. That's what I'm thinking of, the baseball league. You really needed to have direct permission to really replay any clips. They certainly have gotten way stricter with that within like the past 20 years. So when this was released, like the late 80s, home video distribution rights it was sort of like the Wild West, where there really wasn't much in the way of like straightforward rules, and it took a lot to get where they eventually got to. So yeah, home video rights was just sort of up in the air for stuff, so you could get away with a lot, which is why there was, if you ever noticed, there's I always call them cartoon cavalcade tapes. Again, speaking of cheap O'Connell line tapes, you'd always find them at like in like a grocery store or something. They were like $1 or $2, and it'd be like one Bugs Bunny cartoon, and then like 7 or 8 of these just weird, really early cartoons that had no copyright to them or public domain. But the Bugs Bunny stuff, like the ones that would lead off the video, the selling point of the video, certainly did not they did not have permission to use the cartoon, so it was unlicensed distribution. That's why I like cartoon cavalcade tapes so much. And one day I'll do a show and tell about the cartoon cavalcade VHS in my collection. But for now, we're talking about sports, and of course, sports bleeper mania. You do come across, at least I have, you probably do as well, you do come across lots of sports blooper stuff in the wild. It is pretty frequent, at least it used to be, and at least it is in my area. Everybody's area is different as far as finding tapes in the wild goes. So yeah, I find a number of sports blooper tapes, but oddly enough, this is the only one I really have, because a lot of times, and this is something it's really important, here's a PSA here, when you're looking at tapes in the wild, always check to make sure not only is it the actual correct tape in the sleeve or the case, but also there's no mold, they're not broken. Always check for problems. And a lot of times when I come across sports blooper tapes in the wild, many of them have been moldy or broken, or just in just really poor condition and not really worth having. And I know there's a way to clean mold off tapes, but if you're thinking I'm going to clean the mold off of a 25-cent sports blooper tape, you're wrong. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I just leave it set, and this is really the only sports blooper tape I have that was in good condition that I found so far in the wild. So what about you? How about you out there? Here, it's time for audience participation. Leave a comment below. How frequently do you find sports blooper tapes, or really just sports tapes, in the wild? And I'm not going to count bass fishing tapes. I'm just not going to, or like hunting tapes. I know they could be considered a sport, but I'm talking about like sports like this, like baseball, football, basketball, the sports stuff. So yeah, let me know. I know there's also a lot of like golfing instruction videos. I don't know if I count that either, but you do come across a lot of those in the wild as well. So yeah, let me know, how frequently do you find sports tapes in the wild, and how many do you have in your collection, or do you even bother getting them because you're just not very interested in sports? Like me, I'm not very interested in sports, but I do buy sports VHS if they're rather interesting, and these so far have been rather interesting. And let's see, I should note, I don't think her name is Morgiana. I think it's Morgana or something. Morgana, I guess. The Kissing Bandit. Apparently that was a thing back then. Apparently it was cool to just run on the field, interrupt the game, and sexually assault people. So that was a good time. Good times had by all, I'm sure. So hey, let's move on. Let's move on to another, I guess you could say a rather cut and dry, rather straightforward sports VHS. Let's go. And I say straightforward because this is not a sports blooper tape or any kind of wacky tape. It's just a straightforward documentary about Richard Petty and STP, the ride of a lifetime. This is a documentary about NASCAR driver Richard Petty. Now, it should be noted that I'm not a NASCAR fan whatsoever, but when I was a very little kid, I sort of liked it basically just because of the cars and the colorful cars and all this kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, I had deemed Richard Petty my favorite driver just because I liked the color of his car, or the colors of his car. And so Richard Petty has always held a special place in my heart because of that. I don't know if that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but the fact is I was a little boy, and I liked cars very much, and I just sort of chose Richard Petty to be my favorite driver because I liked his car, and that just sort of stuck with me all through my lifetime, and still continues to do so. So when I came across this, I felt it very necessary to pick it up, especially considering it was only 50 cents, and hey, a good price is very convincing, and that is the case here. This is a 1991 ESPN home video distribution. I'm not going to lie, I don't have any plans on watching this. I just really like having it. And also, I never come across NASCAR stuff in the wild when it comes to VHS. I mean, not that I would buy it if I did, but the fact remains I never see NASCAR videos out there. So this was really the first one I've ever come across, and it happened to be my favorite driver when I was a kid, or I should say, I guess my favorite car. Yeah, so I just had to get it just for the nostalgia. So happy to have this one. Not going to watch it, but still happy that I have it on my shelf. So let's move on a little bit here to our last pieces. I say pieces because this is a twofer. And hey, how about some controversy? Would you like some controversy? Well, we're going to have some controversy here with these next tapes. Here we go. How about some football with the Washington Redskins? I have two VHS here of Washington Redskins history, and Washington Redskins, the 1991 video playbook. Now, if you don't know, you probably do know, but just in case you don't, it's controversial because Washington Redskins had fairly recently had to change their name because the Washington Redskins had been deemed offensive, and they had to change their name. And for a while there, they didn't even really have a name after this change. They were just the Washington football team, which is a little pathetic. I mean, come on, it's a multi-million-dollar, if not more, franchise. You can't come up with a better name than that, even though it was just a working title. Come on, you could do better than that. And I believe they eventually changed their name, or they settled with the Washington Commanders. So yeah, Washington Redskins is no longer a thing, and so it's a kind of a rule of thumb that when you come across Washington Redskins stuff, you pick it up because now it is instantly a relic. VHS is the relics anyway, but here we have a football franchise that's no longer called what it was called, and it's a relic because of the name change. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how valuable these are. I don't know. I just sort of got them because, like I said, now they are just sort of pieces of history, just because of the name change. And I come across Redskins stuff tape-wise sort of frequently, but I sort of just settled with just these two. I was like, you know what, I don't particularly like football, but I just wanted to have these because they were just very interesting pieces of history just based on the name change. And the one there was a co-sponsorship with Safeway Foods. Safeway is a grocery store chain that is in the Washington, D.C. area in the United States, and of course the surrounding states, surrounding D.C. as well. So Safeway is a grocery store chain, if you're wondering. And so yeah, it's always neat to have these. Some tapes do have like a co-sponsorship. I don't know really how that works, but they do have a name brand tied to them. So it's always cool to find those, because those are certainly pieces of time. And that's really the allure, or part of the allure, of collecting anything really, is just having these the little time capsules, little ways to look back to the past, and they're just fun to have. Offensive name or not, they're just fun to have. And this one here, the video playbook from 1991, is interesting. I just noticed this. It's from Media Home Entertainment. Yeah, Media, the famous home video distributor amongst the VHS culture, usually known for releasing horror movies and schlocky type stuff. But really, they released all kinds of stuff, and sports was not off their list. And this is the only sports tape I have that was distributed by Media. So I think that's rather interesting. And as far as the offensive name goes, they could have saved themselves a whole lot of trouble if they would have asked me, instead of changing the name, you just change the logo. You remain the Washington Redskins, but you change the logo to a potato. So like a Redskin potato. I mean, what's wrong with that? Redskin potatoes, they're hearty. They're really good for you. I think the point gets across. You wouldn't have had to change any kind of name. Just change the logo. There you go. The Washington Redskins remains. They're just potatoes. I like Redskin potatoes. Like I said, they're good for you. But make sure you leave the skin on when you eat them, because that's where all, or most of the vitamins are. At least I am told. So yes, two rather offensive pieces in my VHS collection with these two Washington Redskin VHS. Now, like I said, I don't really know if it's true, but I've heard that Washington Redskin stuff, just based on the name change, is just automatically more valuable. But I don't really know if that's true. That's not always my mindset in collecting stuff. Most of the time, I really just want to have stuff because I think it's just a relic, and these are good examples of that. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to put a bow on this here. Yeah, I don't have any more sports tapes. Like I said, there is a difference between sports movies and sports tapes, and I'm just showing off my sports tapes today. So yeah, I'm going to call it quits here on this one. Sports, not really my favorite subject. Not really interested in it, but I do like these tapes. Like I said, I will buy sports tapes if they strike my fancy, and with these 5 fancies were struck, and I just had to get them. Of course, I wanted to pay a little homage to Bob Uecker, so yeah, may he rest in peace, most certainly. So yeah, now it's time for audience participation. Let me know. I've always been kind of curious as to how you watch these videos. First of all, I'm very thankful that you are, very appreciative of you watching, tuning in today, and always tuning in. I thank you for that. But how do you watch them? Do you actually watch them, or do you just listen to them whilst you do your daily chores or your daily toils, and you just sort of listen to them in the background? Either way is fine with me. I'm really glad you're here. And if you do just listen to these in the background, I hope I certainly help get your jobs done. Perhaps you're painting a picture, perhaps you're writing the next great American novel, or just great novel. Perhaps you're sketching, doodling something. Maybe you're sculpting something. Maybe you're cleaning your room. You're cleaning the bathroom. You're doing laundry. Whatever you might be doing. Maybe you're making a pot. Maybe you're smoking pot. I don't really know, but I'm glad you're here. So most certainly stay tuned, and plenty more show and tells to come. So I certainly thank you for joining me today. It was sort of fun, even though it was about a topic I'm not very interested in, but I'm glad you joined me today, and I certainly hope everything is going well for you out there. And if it's not, like I said, always stay positive. Look onward and upward. Go with God, my friends, and trust in Jesus Christ, and everything is going to be all right. Please hang in there. Keep the faith. I want you to do well and be well and stay positive. Be brave. Be kind, be generous, and take care out there. And I'll see you next time, only on Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship. Goodbye, and God bless.